Hello everybody, welcome back to the Lawrence Allcott channel. I'm making a video I don't want to be making. Ian Holloway has been sacked, and even worse, Steve Mclaren could well be the next manager of QPR. It literally makes me feel pretty sick. I want to be mature with all of my videos, but what the fuck? I'll get into my thoughts on Ian Holloway, the fact that he's been sacked, and why I think that is ultimately a bad decision. And I'll also talk to one of my good friends who's a big Derby County fan and talk to him about Steve Mclaren, what QPR might be getting in return. But first, let's talk about Ian Holloway and my feelings on it. And for any people out there who've seen me on Ball Street or Long Ball Street, you know I'm an Ian Holloway fan. And I wanted to give you some kind of emotional context to it, because things like this happen. It is an emotional thing. I'm a football fan and I care about my club, just like you care about your club. So I wanted to just explain the emotional context of Ian Holloway to me, because this guy came into my football club after I'd watched them for about 10 years just get worse and worse and worse and worse, and spend too much money on crap players who didn't care about the football club, and watched them go from the Premier League with a team that had Les Ferdinand, Ray Wilkins, Alan McDonald, Andy Sinton, David Bardsley, or players who played for the England national team. And this is QPR, remember? Even Ian Holloway was in that team. So as a kid, I watched that team and loved that team. Then as that team declined, it got to a point where we went down into the third tier of English football, and that's the lowest I'd ever seen my team play. Ian Holloway came in at the end of that. He couldn't stop it. And I saw him at the end, on the last game of the season. We played Stockport County, lost 3-0 at home. And he went round the crowd and I said, "Ollie, don't worry about it, mate. It'll be okay." Anyway, "No, mate, that wasn't okay. It won't happen again." So immediately there was an emotional connection with me and him, because he cared enough and felt embarrassed enough of what had happened. He came back that next season with 7 players or something like that, the club in administration. And he turned that club that had players who didn't care, who were just there for a payday, something that we saw again, and which led to him coming back. And he changed it, and he brought in players who cared about QPR. So you as a football fan, whoever you support, you will care about the players who care. It's a universal truth. And he littered this QPR team with players who cared. Not only that, he achieved things. First season we finished, I think it was 9th. The second season, I think it was 4th. The season after that, we got promoted automatically. I was at Hillsborough, it was amazing. The season after that, it finished 11th. So every single season he's done better for Queen's Park Rangers, my team. The season after that, we were mid-table. He left, he got put on gardening leave. Again, sacked from nowhere. And we finished 21st, just about stayed up. So every time he's been our manager, every season, year on year, and this is a comment that Holloway has said himself, as long as we're moving forward each season, we're doing better each season, then we're going in the right direction. I sound like David Brent, but you know what I mean. So when he came back, I was excited. We'd had Basingwa, we'd had Harry Redknapp, people who didn't truly care about QPR and making sure that the players on the pitch cared about QPR. So that is my emotional connection with Ian Holloway. So you might see the top line of Ian Holloway, that him joking about, making silly comments, but I see a lot more than that. I see the pride that he puts into the QPR team that he manages. So when he came back, I was excited. Passion, unity, heart, things that had kind of just disappeared from QPR. So he's come in and he's brought that back to this club. There's no denying that. He wants that. And that positive momentum is something that's been stunted, I think, by some of the fans who wanted Neil Warnock instead. And I understand why you would want Neil Warnock, because he did great for us. But he was there and he cared. And QPR fans, the pessimists, I feel, have got what they wanted here. And be careful what you wish for. So that's the emotional side of it for me, right? Then let's look at the facts of this season. Let's break it down the season. Again, he came in last season, we just about stayed up. But the reason we just about stayed up is because he started changing the team because we were pretty much there already. And he was looking at the next season. This season, we've improved. And we've improved. Let's look at the facts. We've improved with a wage bill that's been cut by a third. Money matters in football. The more money you've got, the better players you can buy, the better team you've got. He went and improved our league position and improved our points with 33% of the wage bill cut. Let's think about the other constraints of that. The fact that means you can't buy new players. I think did we buy just Scowen in the summer? He's brought in other players as well, but all from lesser clubs. No big money signings like we've had in the past. And he's moved the team forward. And any QPR fan who's been at some of our home games this season has seen the heart that this team, even if they haven't got the quality, the heart that this team has shown this season. And for a fan of a team that is not a big team in English football, that's all you can ask for. We don't have much money, or maybe we do. Maybe that's part of this whole decision to get rid of him. But if the next guy comes in, and it looks like it might be McClaren, if that guy comes in and it doesn't work, if it's not a marked improvement, Les Ferdinand needs to go. Because he's had enough opportunities to get it right. And he's got it wrong on several occasions. He is a club legend. I love him for that. He was one of my first heroes. But he's got a guy in who was doing the job. He was doing everything that was asked of him. The youngsters that we've brought through, we've never brought through youngsters. Ever. And there's 9 of them in and around the first team. And he's done that whilst keeping us up. Let's look at some of the things that people will throw at Ian Holloway. And I think there's some fair comments with it, right? The away form, awful. So bad. I get it. I understand. But for me, you've got to understand the wider context. Are we sacking a guy because of his away form, or are we sacking a guy because of his overall end position in the table? If it's the first one, then fine. But if it's the second one, which makes a bit more sense to me, then he needs to stay. The second one, odd team selection. Again, I think that's something that's been the one real annoyance with me with Holloway. Whenever he's managed us, there's been some team selections where you've gone, I'm not really sure what you're doing here, mate. That happened a lot this season. But again, we've got mediocre players. There's a lack of quality there. And so if there is an understanding of keeping the environment right, keeping people competitive, giving people an opportunity, and also starting to blood in these youngsters, I think you can give them a break for that. For me, more points, more youngsters who care, other players who care, Freeman, Scowen, Luongo, an exciting midfield there that makes teams quit. Yes, a lack of quality, but that comes down to a lack of money and bringing down the wage bill. He's done everything that's asked of him, and he's just been shown the door, and I think it's disgusting. That is my opinion on it. Let me know your thoughts on that. The big thing is Steve Mclaren. Jesus Christ, Steve Mclaren, right? I don't like Steve Mclaren. I think he's a good coach. He is not a good manager. I think it's been proven. But maybe I've got the same feeling, that top line about Steve Mclaren, that other fans seem to have about Ian Holloway. So I wanted to dive into it a bit deeper. So I asked my mate Ozzy, who's a Derby County fan, what he thought.
When Steve Mclaren joined Derby, it was a breath of fresh air. We played attacking football, we played on the front foot, we played an exciting 4-3-3 formation. The days when Nigel Clough was there, and it was very much a rebuilding process. The football was very defensive, it was very on the back foot, it was at times really difficult to watch. However, Steve Mclaren brought a fresh impetus to it. As I said, we attacked with pace, we attacked on the front foot, we played from the back. It was exciting to watch. It actually coined the phrase, the Mel Morris phrase, the Derby way, which essentially we feel that was down to the football that we were playing under Steve Mclaren. When Steve Mclaren left and we brought in Paul Clement, we were much tighter at the back. And I think that's the thing when with Steve Mclaren is we played fast, we played on the front foot, we played attacking football, but we left ourselves very exposed at the back, and we would actually sort of concede as many goals as we would score, which made games very difficult to see out if we knew that we couldn't keep it tight at the back. We would go to Rotherham and Millwall and drew 3-3 or 4-4 at the business end of the season, when really we needed to keep things safe. It was exciting. We might be chasing games and he wouldn't mind bringing 3 players on at once, which was, we really got the crowd behind Really got the crowd behind the team. It was great. As much as it was bad, as good, sorry, in equal measures at times, it was frustrating because we couldn't see games like we'd score once, twice, maybe even 3 times on occasion, and still end up, drawing or losing the game. So it was one of those. I mean, some of the best football that I've witnessed at Pride Park as a season ticket holder has come under Steve McClaren. We've seen great goals. We've seen fantastic wins. However, it came with the fact that when it got down to the business end of the season and we really needed to see games through in order for us to continue our promotion push, we tended to fall at the final hurdle. When he joined Derby and when he took over from Nigel Clough, we were at the wrong end of the table, and he rejuvenated the side. He got us playing again, fantastic football, and we rose up the league. Ultimately, as you guys will know very well, we as QPR fans, that was the time that we were. I think we played well. It was clear we played QPR off the park, but it just wasn't to be that day. So with Steve McClaren, you are going to get somebody who is first and foremost a coach. There's been doubts about whether he actually is a football manager, and some of his best work has been done as a coach behind the scenes. But he gets on the training field. He will like to coach players, to work with players, to bring the best out of them. But we never felt that he was quite the tactician that was really necessary. And it was shortcomings were down to perhaps the fact that he'd never really had a plan B. We were 4-3-3, and that was it. So expect some exciting football. Expect to be playing quick on the break. We had a Chris Martin who was a 20-goal a season striker who's out in the cold at the time at Derby. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up at QPR in some fashion, be it on loan. So if you need a big striker who gets himself about a bit, then I wouldn't be surprised if Chris Martin actually ends up at QPR too. So, however, with Steve McClaren is that the bubble burst and he has his head turned. Perhaps the Newcastle job came along when he was at Derby, and as such that it didn't bode well. He never actually come out and said that he didn't want the job, and as such that he sort of we sort of fell out of love with him, so to speak. But he's a coach, he's a motivator. He does play attacking football. He doesn't really have a plan B. And if you want excitement back at Loftus Road, then that's potentially, it wouldn't be a far shout, because he's got something. The fact that he's the England manager suggests that he's got something, but it can be equally frustrating as well. And if as many goals you can score, you're more likely to concede as well. So
that's what Ozzy thinks about Steve McClaren. For me, this just feels like a total disaster. Such a mistake. We're losing substance and bringing in cringeworthy style in Steve McClaren. He was a disaster at Newcastle. He did well his first stint at Derby, and there was a good feeling about him there at Derby. As an ex-player, he was there as assistant manager, and he had a really good squad there that could play the football that he wanted to play. I'm not sure we're there yet. I think there's a lot of growing that needs to happen. I'd love to have him in as a coach, but as a manager, when it goes wrong, is he going to be able to galvanise the fans, all the players? On a lot of occasions, he's been found wanting. And with a fan base that is so split on this decision, if he does become the manager of Queen's Park Rangers, I just can't see it working out, and I don't think it's worth the risk. For me, Holloway, he's won promotions. He's had his failures, but those failures are totally outweighed by his successes. Successful at QPR, successful at Plymouth, successful at Blackpool, with a ridiculous budget. And there's a lot of similarities between the squad that he's going to be able to put together with Queen's Park Rangers and what he did at Blackpool. Palace's win ratio was poor, but he got the job done and got them up. Millwall was a disaster. I'll hold my hands up. Look, what can you say? And Leicester, that was a disaster as well. But if someone's going to be a manager for this long, there's going to be moments where it goes right and goes wrong. But at QPR, it's always gone pretty much safe and sound and in the right direction. And now, instead, what we're doing is we're getting rid of someone who totally understands the fabric of the club and the limitations of the club, but doesn't care, wants to push on anyway and achieve something. In place, we've put someone like Steve McClaren, who is cringeworthy, who is David Brent. I like David Brent, but only when it's a joke. I don't want my football club becoming a joke. So those are my thoughts on a bad day, in my opinion, for QPR. But what do you think? I will support my club to the end. despite this, Les Ferdinand, you better get it right this time, mate, because if you haven't, you are accountable this time. Tony Fernandez, I've tried to back you time and again and let your mistakes be seen as over-enthusiasm. But on this occasion, if you get this wrong, then again, it's a massive, massive mark on your name, certainly in my eyes, and definitely in the remaining fans of you that are QPR fans. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Click like, it always really helps. And if you're new to the channel, then please hit that subscribe button. I'm getting close to 4K now, so it'd be great to get over that to round off what's been a pretty shitty day for an Ian Holloway fan. But I am a QPR fan more than that, so come on you R's, let's hope it all works out.